Senate will come to order. The senators will take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will retire to the gallery. Good morning, senators. Good morning, guests. The senators and those in attendance, if you are able, please rise. We will be led in prayer this morning by the Reverend Josh Shiflett of Standardsville Baptist Church, Standardsville.
What an honor to stand before you this morning. Let's pray together if you would, all right? Father, thank you for the privilege of meeting with this group of men and women today. Men and women who have given their lives to the duty of serving the families of Virginia. Lord, help them as they face the changing problems of our state, of our country, and even our world. I ask that you might be able, that all decisions would be based on truth, based on righteousness, based on things that would honor you. Father, I know within this room there are differences of opinion, and often my opinion might blind me from seeing the view of someone else. Lord, I pray that you would give to each of them clarity of mind, clarity of heart, clarity of purpose, knowing that at the end of the day, their name will be judged by their decisions. Lord, thank you that you've so blessed Virginia, so many presidents, so many statesmen. Father's Virginia, the mother of our nation. Today, God, do it again. Raise up within this group of leaders right now in this room, men and women that are chosen to lead and to lay aside self. Father, may we pray as Solomon did. Give thou for thy servant an understanding heart to judge this thy people, that I may be able to discern between good and bad. For who is able, Lord, to judge this so great a people? Lord, I know the task before them right now must truly seem overwhelming. So, Lord, this very moment I ask you this. Give them a sense of peace if they're right. And even so, a sense of guilt if they would know that they're wrong. Father, now may the glory of God and the peace of heaven shine upon this place. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had a spear.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Monday, February 26, 2024.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All those in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Senator Surravel, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon, Senator.
I would move to waive reading of the House communication.
Question is, shall the reading of the communication from the House be waived? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, Madam President.
We have quickly arrived at the time we call our morning hour, and we will discover who all of you are. And we're so glad that you're here. The procedure is your senator will rise and tell us who you are. Please rise at that time as well. And if you'll hold your applause until after I have officially greeted you, then we'll all applaud you together. And so with that, I do call on Senator Reeves. Senator Reeves, the senator from Orange.
My apologies. Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, our prayer this morning was given by a dear friend of mine, Reverend Josh Shiflett, and I would ask that he stand and his beautiful wife, Barbara, along with him and his family. And, Madam President, I can tell you, if that prayer didn't strike your fire, your wick is wet. And I always enjoy visiting Standardsville Baptist Church because my pastor preaches the truth. And, Madam President, I would ask that you would give him the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Pastor. Please remain standing. Please remain standing. We want to give you the warm welcome of our wonderful Senate, your Senate. We thank you for that prayer. Thank you for all the sacrifices we know that you make, and I understand you've been in Standardsville, 48 years preaching and serving the Lord, even in the bus ministry. Thank you so very much for all that you do. Thank you, and thank you, family. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction and a request.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Today in the gallery, we have some friends who have been with us before. It is the Oaks family, Linda and Eric Oaks, as well as Dr. Courtney White. They are the family of Adam Oaks, the young man who died 3 years ago as a result of a hazing incident at VCU. Today is actually the 3-year anniversary. He was told to drink a fifth of whiskey by an older fraternity member, and Adam died of alcohol poisoning. Unfortunately, no one stepped up to help. Nobody stepped up to stop it, and Adam passed away. The fraternity had previous violations in this issue. So Adam's family, Eric and Linda and Courtney, have been working tirelessly to strengthen Virginia's hazing laws with me and all of us so that other families don't have to suffer the devastating loss of a child. And tonight his family, which I will be joining them, will be holding a hazing preventing training at VCU in his honor. In 2022, all of us here who were here in this body passed Adams Law, legislation to require hazing prevention training at colleges and universities, and to require the universities and colleges to post the hazing incidents on their college websites so that families are able to understand what dangers might be in front of their children. The family has traveled throughout Virginia to provide life-saving training at both higher education institutions and at high schools with prosecutors and police. And to this date, they have completed 25 trainings with 6 more scheduled for March and April. I'm really proud of you all. Adam's cousin Courtney, who is with us, has earned her PhD focusing on evidence-based hazing training, prevention training. And I'm just so honored that they have used their grief by helping other people. Madam President, not only do I ask you to give them a warm Senate welcome, but I also ask that we adjourn this afternoon in the memory of Adam Oakes. Thank you.
I thank the senator. Thank you, family, for coming. We know that you miss Adam greatly. It's been 3 years. It feels, I know, like yesterday. And you're still wondering, how could this have happened? You sent your son to college. The future was ahead of him, and he did not come home. But what you've done is tried to spare so many other families from experiencing what you have. And we try to do our very best to get rid of hazing. And fortunately, the young people find new ways. But because you are there, helping them not to find those new ways, to say, don't try this, then you save lives. There are parents out there who don't even know that you saved one of their children's lives. So we thank you so very much for not going inside, but putting out your grief, working it through, and saving someone else. Thank you so very much for doing that. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, a group that I believe visited you, Madam President, is with us in the gallery, the Health and Community Resources Network. Madam President, HCRN we're joined by specific individuals, David Bowman, Deborah Willis, Susan Campbell, Lynn Hancock, Rita McCullough, Thomas Bevan, and Daphne Marshall in the gallery. Madam President, this is a group of professionals that works together to build relationships and make a difference in the community, blending their different experiences from home healthcare, pharmacy, hospice, and care management groups. Madam President, if you could offer them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Good afternoon to you. It's been, I think, 3 months since I last saw you at breakfast, and I just happened to invade your space, and thank you for allowing me to do that and to learn more about you and what you do. Thank you for all that you do in your various professions and for your care for those especially who are not able to help themselves. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator DeSteff, the senior senator from Virginia Beach.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
I rise for an introduction.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, members of the Senate, today in the gallery, we have members of Senator McGuire's family here to help honor Senator McGuire's Uncle Pat, or Mac McGuire, including Mac's widow, and Senator McGuire's aunt, Linda McGuire, Senator McGuire's brother, Rusty. We also have several of Mac's former colleagues with us, including John and Susan Hillard, Edward Bish, Andrew Nagel, and Ed Rhodes. James Patrick McGuire was a highly decorated combat veteran during Vietnam War. He served an additional 43 years in the Army Reserves, assigned to the 80th Training Division, retiring as a Chief Warrant Officer for AG. He put that call to service to work, volunteering with the Forest View Volunteer Rescue Squad for 48 years. He was a squad leader, a first aid instructor, a vehicle extradition instructor. He served in leadership positions, including captain and president. He was also active with the Virginia Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads, the Chesterfield County Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads, the Governor's EMS Advisory Board. He was inducted into the Virginia Life Saving and Rescue Hall of Fame in 1998 and continued to serve the Forest View Volunteer Rescue Squad and Virginia Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads until his passing. Somehow, Mac found time to coach high school girls softball, was dedicated to his team at the J.R. Tucker High School. He also founded the West End Waves Fast Pitch Softball Organization. He was active with the Skipwatch Baptist Church, holding many positions of leadership, improving lives, and mentoring those who needed guidance. Madam President, as you can tell, Pat McGuire was an exceptional guy. I ask that you give his wife, Linda, his family and friends a warm Senate welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, family, for coming. And we are hearing about Mr. McGuire. What a man he was. He gave his life in service in so many different areas, from war to coming home and coaching and being a part of putting out fires and rescuing people continually. What an awesome man he was. Thank you so very much for giving him the ability to continue to do that, because I know there are times we've said, "You're going out again?" Yes, I'm needed. Thank you for allowing him to do that. Senators, let us give the family a warm welcome of their Senate. Senator Diggs, the senator from York.
Madam President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I would like to introduce students and faculty from Christopher Newport University today. Today is their annual Captains in the Capitol Day, where they bring students to Richmond to learn about lawmaking in the Commonwealth. They are joined by their new president, Bill Kelly. President Kelly joined CNU on July 1st after a 36-year career in the United States Coast Guard, where he recently retired as a two-star admiral after leading the Coast Guard Academy. Be sure to say hello to anyone wearing a blue and white scarf, as I'm wearing today, as you walk the hallways. As a reminder, their legislative reception is tonight at Redbird Social on 6th Street, beginning at 5:30. I will be there, and I hope you will be there too. Madam President, I ask that you extend the CNU captains the warm welcome of the Senate.
Mr. President, you are a two-star admiral, but we would, in the Marine Corps, call you a major general. What a feat indeed, and we're so glad that you are here. We are so glad for Christopher Newport University producing these young people and some returning adults, so that, well, you'll be contributors to our great society here in Virginia and elsewhere. But we want you to stay in Virginia and make it the best place to be. Thank you so very much for being a part of this process. You are the government, and we need you in it. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Is there any other business to come for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Tuesday, February 27, 2024. Under bills in conference, there's been a change in the conferees on Senate Bill 194. New conferees are Van Valkenburg, Deeds, and McDougall. Turning to page 2. Unfinished business, House Bill 470. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Sturville. the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we insist, request, and demand a committee conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute to House Bill 470 and respectfully request a committee of conference on the bill? All those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference on the bill.
Unfinished business, Senate. Senate Bill 98 has passed the House with an amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that we concur with the amendment and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. What this amendment does is it tightens the language of the underlying bill, which talked about pre-authorization for drugs, and it actually says for prescription drugs, drugs or prescription drugs. It puts it in two different places in the bill. It is an addition. I think that is positive. So, again, I ask that we concur with the amendment.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the amendments on Senate Bill 98? All in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 174 has passed the House with a substitute with amendment.
Again, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that we concur with the substitute and with the amendment to that substitute and speaking to the motion.
The senator may say on.
Thank you, Madam President. What the substitute does is it adds some training requirements or training opportunities for employees of financial institutions. The underlying bill, again, laid out a framework for financial institutions to identify potential abuse of vulnerable adults. So with the substitute, the additional training is a much-needed addition. And then the amendment merely states that when financial records are turned over to the FBI or law enforcement, they are not subject to the usual disclosure requirements of our FOIA. So with that explanation, Madam President, I renew my motion that we concur with the substitute and the amendment.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute on Senate Bill 174? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 178 has passed the House with amendments.
Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that we concur with the amendment. What the amendments do.
The senator may continue.
Speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. One amendment actually identifies the House committee properly. And the second amendment shortens the time frame by which we will receive a report. On the underlying bill, we're asking the OIG to come up with a plan for investigating allegations of abuse and neglect at our psychiatric facilities. Lawmakers would like that report sooner rather than later. So if we want to put in legislation before our pre-filing date, we have more time to do so. With that explanation, Madam President, again, I move that we concur with the amendments.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 212 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate reject the House substitute. What, Director?
With an explanation?
I'm reading the book right here. Madam President, I move
I understand you, Senator.
Madam
You're
President.
quite fine.
Thank
With an
you.
explanation?
Hope we are disagreeing on a similar parts. Hope we get it at conference. Is that correct?
The question is, with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 2, noes 37.
Ayes 2, noes 37. The House substitute is rejected.
Senate Bill 217 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that we reject the House substitute, I move that we concur.
With an explanation?
Yes, Madam President. The House moved back to the substitute that was put on prior to the bill going to Senate Finance, and my preference is the Senate Finance substitute, so that is why I would ask that we reject the House substitute.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the House substitute on Senate Bills 217 be agreed to? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The House substitute is rejected.
Senate Bill 242 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senator McPike, the senior senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that we concur with the House substitute in speaking to
The senator has the floor.
I move to concur because really it's our substitute, Madam President. It's really our idea that they have adopted, and we've tricked them into it. The House cognate is 242. Senate cognate is 242. It's perfectly lined up, so they accept numbers. So the specifics are subdivision A3, 2.2, 4302.2, and require the off the state exemptions to terms and conditions in the RFP written as they were submitted if the public body has requested. So it's really clarifying and technical amendment that both bodies have accepted.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute on Senate Bill 242? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 255 has passed the House with a substitute with amendment.
Senator Sorovell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we concur with the House amendment and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is one of the two shared solar bills. This is, I think, the APCO bill, and we've already passed the identical version of this out in the House version, and there's peace in the valley on this, and I would. People want me to get into the specific amendments, I can do that, but I would move the bill pass.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The Senate concurs.
House Bill 271 has passed the House with amendment.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Subramaniam.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we concur with the House amendment and speaking to that motion.
Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. It's simply just the amendment simply just removed a comma, so we'll let the grammar police across the hall have this one, and so I move to pass the amendment and pass the bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, no 17.
Ayes 22, no 17. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 393 passed the House with a substitute.
Senator Pekarsky, the senator from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that the House substitute be rejected, I move that substitute be agreed to and speaking to the motion.
Senator may continue.
Thank you. There are two major differences between the House and Senate bill. In the House substitute, they have removed one of the criteria for determining a diverse board, which is the numerical percentage of that board. The House substitute also changes who receives the annual diversity disclosure statement from the MEI Project Approval Commission to the Virginia Economic Development Partnership Authority, and I remove my motion as stated.
With the recommendation that the House substitute be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 1, noes 38.
Ayes 1, noes 38. The substitute is rejected.
Senate Bill 480 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senator Aird, the senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we concur with the House substitute. Speaking to that.
The senator may continue.
Thank you. Just to remind the body, Madam President, this legislation codified the recommendations for the SEC to protect residential utility customers during extreme weather events from disconnection. And the changes made in the House simply allow us to adjust the notifications that are required for that disconnection to occur and to lower the criteria for reconnection for LIHEAP customers. And so I hope we would move the legislation forward.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 1.
Ayes 37, noes 1. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 536 has passed the House with amendments.
Senator Bagby, the senior senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. With recommendation that the House amendments be rejected, I move that the amendments be agreed to. And speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The House amendments were made to conform the Senate bill to HB 1261. In doing so, the House removed aspects of the bill that were worked on and agreed to during the Senate committee process, including a sunset provision. And so with that, I would renew my recommendation to reject the amendments.
With the recommendation that the House amendments be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Ayes 1, noes 38. The amendments are rejected.
Senate Bill 543 has passed the House with amendments.
Again, Senator Bagby, the senior senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments and speaking to that motion.
The senator may say on.
Thank you, Madam President. The amendments made by the House are just technical, and if you look at the bottom of page 6, you will see that one word that has changed, and so with that, I renew my recommendation.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendments.
Senate Bill 550 has passed the House with amendments.
Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, with a recommendation that we reject the House amendments, I move that they pass, and I'd like to speak to that.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, you can see in your calendar that there are 4 amendments that are perfectly fine. They are technical. The 5th amendment is one that delays this good policy for a year, and that's not acceptable. So I'll ask you to reject the amendments.
With the recommendation that the House amendments be rejected, the question is, shall they be agreed to? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes yes, noes, ayes 1, and that's a yes. Nays 38.
Yeas 1, nays 38. The House amendments are rejected.
Senate Bill 568 has passed the House with amendments.
Again, Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
I move that the amendment that the House amendments be agreed to, and I'm speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, these amendments prove the rule that even a blind hog finds an acorn every once in a while. These
A blind what, Senator?
That a blind hog finds an acorn every once in a while. So I hope you will agree to these grammatical, technical amendments.
The question is, shall the House concur with the Senate House amendments? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 582 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
With the recommendation that we reject the House substitute, I move that we concur. And speaking to that motion,
The senator may say on.
This is the bill that would improve the oversight of liquid nicotine known as vaping and crack down on the sale of these products to underage Virginians. The House of Delegates added a reenactment clause on the bill and made several other amendments, including one that has a conflict with the Senate budget. So I would ask that we reject the House substitute so that we can continue to work on it in conference.
With the recommendation that the House substitute be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 1, noes 38.
Ayes 1, noes 38. The House substitute is rejected.
Senate Bill 626 is passed the House with a substitute.
Senator Pillion, the senator from Washington.
Madam President, with the recommendation that the House substitute be rejected, I move that the substitute be agreed to. Speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the barrier crimes bill. The House substitute conform my bill to the House version. We need to reject the substitute to get the bills in conference. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, with the recommendation that the House substitute be rejected, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The House substitute on Senate Bill 626 is rejected.
Senate Bill 646, reported from the House with a substitute.
Senator French, the senator from Shenandoah County.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, with the recommendation that the House substitute be rejected, I move that the substitute be agreed to and speaking to that motion.
The senator may say on.
With doing this, we get this bill to committee and we can work out the differences.
Now, the question is, with the recommendation that the House substitute be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The House substitute is rejected.
Senate Bill 344 has passed. The House insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes Senator Reeves, the senator from Orange.
Thank you, Madam President. I would ask that we accede to a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 344? All those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate accedes to the request for a committee of conference on the bill.
Conferees on the part of the Senate as named by the Chair of General Laws and Technology, Senator Eben, are Senators Reeves, McPike, and Van Valkenburg. Senate Bill 649 has passed. The House insists on a substitute and requests a committee of conference.
Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate accede to the House request for a committee of conference on the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 649? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate accedes.
Conferees on the part of the Senate as named by the Chair of Courts of Justice, Senator Servell, are Senators Salim, Perry, and McDougal. The remaining bills, we are awaiting House action. On page 14, uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading.
Chair recognizes Senator Servell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all the House bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendars on pages 14 through 20, House Bill 719 through 1538, be advanced to their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto. Did any senator desire to move a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall House bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 14 through 20, House Bill 719 through House Bills 1538, be placed upon their final passage in the block with any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bills. Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will now read the number of the bills.
House Bill 719, House Bill 114.
For what purpose does the senator from Northern Fairfax?
Madam President, can HB 719 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, House Bill 719 is out of the block.
House Bill 143, House Bill 144, House Bill 204, House Bill 317, House Bill 425, House Bill 460, House Bill 479 is reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendment.
Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that we agree to the amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 613, House Bill 815, House Bill 839, House Bill 888, House Bill 912, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendments.
Again, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 1073, House Bill 1135, House Bill 1362, House Bill 1419, House Bill 1538.
The question is, shall the House bills in the block pass? That is, all bills except for House Bill 719 on page 14. All in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? All the senators voted. Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Returning to House Bill 719 on page 14.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that HB 719 pass, and speaking briefly to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Delegate Reeser's bill requires that Virginia schools include hazing prevention education as part of 9th or 10th grade health curriculum. It's the counterpart to my bill that passed both the House and the Senate. It calls for curriculum changes approved by the Board of Education and guidance documents to provide hazing prevention resources in the interim on the Department of Education website. I wanted to pull this out because the Oaks family is here and they have worked tirelessly to conduct training sessions for both older students and high school students. The younger students have shared that hazing is prevalent at their schools, in their sports teams and clubs and bands and other groups, and we know that we need to start education earlier in our children's lives, especially before they get to college. You may be aware that last Tuesday, a second-year transfer student pledging Kappa Sig at the University of Virginia fell down the stairs and hit his head after drinking heavily. He is now in a coma, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. It's just imperative that reaching out to students before they get to college will help them to prepare to identify dangers of hazing and step up and put a stop to the dangerous behavior before more students lose their lives or are seriously injured. I just want to say again, I'm grateful to Adam's family for their continued work to prevent needless tragic losses due to hazing, and I expect that this education will help our children identify and stop hazing, and ask that we pass the bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bill passes.
Regular calendar, House bills on third reading. House Bill 161, individuals experiencing or reporting overdoses while incarcerated, disciplinary procedures.
Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that House Bill 161 pass and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, House Bill 161 extends a safe harbor for people who report opiate overdoses or drug overdoses while in jail or state correctional facility, local, regional jail, or state correctional facility. This sort of builds on the safe harbor that we passed starting back in 2015. We then extended in 2019, again in 2021, to people who report overdoses outside of correctional facilities. If you read the bill, the new subsection C, which is designed specifically for people who are incarcerated, allows people to have immunity from prosecution if they're either experiencing an overdose themselves and self-report, or if they report somebody else who is overdosing. And what it does is it allows the person not to be charged with a drug possession charge. It does not extend immunity beyond drug possession charges to the kinds of other felonies that we've talked about on this floor before. In committee, we heard some pretty, I think, powerful testimony from folks who've talked about watching people overdose in prison, while one person said over 100 people walked by and didn't do anything. This is happening more and more and more in our jails, and obviously these people are not getting these drugs from people in jail. It's coming into the jail somehow, and the sheriffs had some concerns that this would inhibit their ability to figure out which of their employees were providing drugs to inmates. And I would submit that that's a false choice. The sheriff shouldn't need the threat of the prosecution of a felony drug possession charge in order to get information to figure out which of their employees are drug dealers. They should be able to figure that out on their own. What this bill is about is making sure that people in jail or in prison are not going to die because they happen to have an addiction. And from my perspective, I think that's much more important, making sure these people are saved, making sure people get treatment for an overdose when they're in that kind of acute relief before they pass away. I think that's a more important policy to achieve rather than being able to give the sheriff a little bit more leverage to try and extort some information out of somebody. So that's what the bill does. I would hope we could pass the bill. I think it's a wise, smart, and measured extension of immunity that we've already granted, and I think it will help save a lot of lives in this state. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The bill passes.
House Bill 187, Teachers, Process and Timeline for Increasing Salary. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments, and there is a floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee amendments.
Acceptance, ma'am.
I move that we agree to the committee amendments.
Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, parliamentary inquiry.
The senator may state it.
Madam President, if we agree, to the committee amendments, does that make the floor substitute out of order?
It does, Senator.
Madam President, then I'll speak to the committee amendments at the appropriate time.
That would be Now would be that time, sir.
Madam President, I'd ask the body not to accept the committee amendments. And speaking to that request, Madam President, we heard a version of this bill on the Senate side, and it went out unanimously. And I believe it was the senator from Portsmouth bill as it went through the body. Madam President, we had the option to be able to put a substitute that looked like that policy that we already voted on, and that was unanimous, and that is the floor substitute that I've presented. The bill that we have before us does some things that I think should be concerning. Madam President, one of the things that it does is put in the code that a labor union, the National Education Association, will be the party that makes the determination on what salaries are. Madam President, I don't think that we should be giving that authority to a labor union in the code. At the very least, if we're going to make that decision, let our Department of Education make the decision what those numbers are. I'll tell the body, Madam President, that I am one of the members that the National Education Association did not endorse in the last election, as well as a number of others on this body, and do not think it's good policy to put it in the code. But as we look at the numbers, Madam President, the numbers that the National Education Association tends to come up with differ from what the Department of Education tends to come up with. The estimates for teacher pay, according to the Virginia Department of Education, for 2023 are $60,648. The National Education Association says those numbers are $64,435. A pretty significant disparity between what the two are saying. If we are going to rely on the code that the governor put this in place, then it should be on numbers that Virginia comes up with. And I'll remind the body that the National Education is a union. On their mission and vision page, they self-identify as so. So as we go through this, we can all agree on a policy that fights for teacher pay being increased, and certainly the budget that this body moved through had that in, but it is not good policy for us to put a union in the code as making the determination solely about what teacher pay should be in Virginia. We should be having that debate and making those decisions, and people that Virginia selects should be making those decisions, not a group outside of the Commonwealth. So, Madam President, I renew my request that we vote against the committee substitute so that we can take up the floor substitute that this body unanimously agreed to.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Madam President, speaking to the committee amendments.
The senator has the floor.
I would like to put maybe a little finer point on the points that Senator McDougall made, point out a couple of things about what we are about to do by adopting the National Education Association's report on teacher pay as kind of our guide star for setting teacher pay in the Commonwealth of Virginia. As Senator McDougall, Senator from Hanover, pointed out, their numbers are way off of Virginia's numbers with respect to what we are paying our teachers in Virginia versus what they say that we're paying our teachers. And before you think that this is a partisan effort to pick and choose numbers that were developed by this administration, I can take you back to 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. During those 4 years, during the previous administration, the National Education Association in 18 said average teacher pay in Virginia was $51,000 some odd dollars. The Northam administration, their Department of Education, reported that average teacher pay in Virginia was actually $57,000. In fiscal year 19, NEA said we were paying teachers $53,000. Our figures were that we were paying them $59,000. And it goes every single year, the same pattern. In 2022, NEA said we were paying teachers $61,000 in Virginia. Virginia Department of Education says we're paying them $64,000. We are actually doing much better than the National Education Association says that we are. And if we go down this path, we need to go down it with our eyes wide open, and maybe some people's are, and they understand where we're heading. This is going to cost us a lot of money just to prove to the National Education Association that we're a good union state. We're doing really well on teacher compensation. Not well enough. We can do better. Our teachers perform critical responsibilities in all of our communities. But I also want you to take a look at some of the other figures in the NEA's report. I pulled it out and I spent some time going through the report. And there's some things that we ought to be concerned about. Over the past 7 or 8 years, as everybody in here knows, we've committed a lot of public resources to public education, a whole lot of resources. Public spending per student in Virginia, public spending per student, in 2020, we were ranked 25th in the country in public spending per student. I'm proud to say that right now we're ranked number 7 in America in terms of public spending per student. Teacher pay, on the other hand, our rank rose from 2020, we were 25, just like we were in public spending. But why is it? Why is it that teacher pay only rose to number 22 in America? That is disturbing. Where are the resources that we are putting into public education going? Those are some of the questions that we ought to be asking instead of simply wholesale adoption of the NEA's report on teacher compensation. We're doing a good job. We need to continue along that path and not set arbitrary targets that have just been developed to market around the country. I hope that we will not do this. I hope that we will continue to improve the quality of education in Virginia. I hope that we will focus on outcomes in addition to inputs, which we are not presently sufficiently focusing on. So I would hope that we would reject this and move on and take up the floor substitute.
Senator Hashmi, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I urge members of the body to reject the floor substitute that has been introduced to us, and just want to address some of the concerns.
Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to address some of the first I want to respond to some of the issues that were raised in the floor amendment and some of the conversation we've heard. Virginia ranks near the bottom in terms of teacher compensation, and we have been struggling for the past decade and a half to ensure that we are meeting the necessary levels of compensation. We are seeing attrition at a high rate among our teaching faculty in our public schools, and we are losing good teachers because we are not competitive in our compensation. This bill is very necessary to move us forward, and I'd like to speak a little bit about the committee amendments that have been proposed. The committee amendments require that the governor, for HB 187, that the governor address the introduced bills in the next few years in the regular sessions of the General Assembly to propose state funding for the Commonwealth share of compensation to increase the average teacher salary to at least the national average by the end of the 26-28 biennium. So we are just struggling to get to the basic levels of the national average. And we would require that there be a methodology to project what that national average salary would be, to include most recent actual or estimated national average teacher salary as it's published or projected. And I would just address the question around the NEA. The NEA is not fabricating its own data on teacher salary. It is, in fact, doing an assessment of the numbers of compensation state by state and reaching its, using that data to reach its recommendations. And so that is the methodology that we would be following in Virginia. And through this project, then, we would be able to work to project what the average teacher salary is, to include the most recent average teacher salary as it's published by the NEA, and then adjust according to what our prior actual salary increases have been. So the committee amendments seek to address these critical concerns, and I hope that we will reject the floor amendments and adopt the committee amendments as recommended by the committee.
Senator Sorovell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the committee amendments.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would hope the body would adopt the committee amendments and therefore put the floor substitute out of order so we can get on with the bill. I think in debating these teacher compensation issues, I think it's important to remember sort of how we got here. My mother, I'm a 13th generation Virginian on one side of my family. My mother was the first person in our family to actually, on the Virginia side of my family, to actually attend a government-funded school. It only took 12 generations. My grandfather went to a one-room school. His family had to throw in money to pay for the teacher. They didn't have school past 8th grade in Franklin County back then. He couldn't go to high school. My grandmother had this exact same experience. My grandfather had to pay for her to go what was then called the Ferrum Training Academy, which is a private high school in Franklin County at the time. Now it's a college. Because there was no public school system in Franklin County. People would pitch in to hire a teacher, and they'd walk to the cabin, and everybody would get their education together. This state has a long, long history of refusing to fund public education, of it not being a priority for a lot of different reasons, which I'm not going to get into. The legacy of that is partly what we are facing today with regard to these numbers. Our state today, notwithstanding our failure to invest in public education for generations, our state today has a median family income of number 10 in America of all the states. We have the 10th highest median income. We're actually a very relatively wealthy state. However, the state of West Virginia, which is 49th in median family income, according to JLARC, somehow finds the means to spend 25% more per child than we do. That's shameful. And everybody here ought to be ashamed that we have allowed that to fester for so long. We've allowed our public education system to not receive the funding to the level of services that our constituents demand and deserve, given the relative prosperity in this state. And I don't know why the NEA's methodology is different. Maybe they just take all the counties and they run an average. Maybe the North Administration looked at all the teachers, and because there happens to be a lot more teachers in Northern Virginia, that weights the average up, as opposed to looking at it by county, which would bring it down. I'm not really sure what the answer is, but I will tell you that if the NEA happens to be a little high every year, that's a good thing, because it'll make us aim to where we are, where we should be, based on how wealthy our state is. If anything, I think this bill shoots low. It shoots lower than where we should be. We should be trying to aim to pay our teachers relative to our wealth. That would be, I think, policy that we would that would honor the legacy of our state and help make up for centuries of failure to invest in public education. And I would hope we would adopt these amendments so we can reject the floor sub.
Chair recognizes Senator Peake, the senator from Lynchburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak to the floor substitute.
The substitute or the amendment?
The amendments, whatever we're talking about.
The amendments are before us, sir.
The amendments then, Madam President.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would hope that the body has learned about the dangers of tying ourselves to another group or another committee or another state. We're now currently tied to electric vehicles with California. By 2035, a standard we will never meet. We have tied ourselves in energy to be carbon-free by 2045 and 2050, a standard we will never meet. And now we want to tie ourselves to another group nationwide for education salaries when we can set our salaries ourselves. We do not need to tie ourselves to some other group, a union group. And in response to the senator from Chesterfield who said that teachers are leaving because of salaries, well, go talk to some teachers in my area. They're not leaving because of salaries. They're leaving because they don't feel safe, because we don't have discipline in our schools, because the teachers are not respected, because the kids misbehave. And when they try to discipline them, they get in trouble. They get accused of running a school-to-prison pipeline. Well, I'll tell you about the school-to-prison pipeline. In Lynchburg High School yesterday, 2 kids beat another kid in the bathroom, and he is in the hospital with a coma. I had a teacher 2 years ago retire from high school because she said she did not feel safe. So we can talk about salaries, and salaries are very important, and I want our teachers to be well compensated and highly compensated in comparison with anyone else in the country. But you are kidding yourself if you think teachers are not concerned about other things besides salary.
Senator Van Valkenburg, the junior senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the floor amendments, or the committee amendments.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I hesitate to add to this already long debate, but I think we should note a couple things when we're talking about this bill in the context of what we're doing this session. So I think there's a couple points worth making that haven't been made. I think when we talk about teacher pay and we talk about teacher pay in the Commonwealth, we need to keep in mind that the Commonwealth has a unique problem when it comes to teachers. And so when you look at salary and you look at salary averages, in some ways it's misleading, because the real problem is that Virginia has a knowledge-based economy that makes it so that a bachelor's or a master's degree can get you quite a lot of money in the private sector. And so when you take that comparison of what you can make in the private sector versus what you make as a teacher, we're towards the bottom of states, because I could leave Henrico County Public Schools tomorrow and make a lot of money at Lego, at CoStar, working in home building, whatever it is. I could be a teacher trainer, a staff trainer. I could do this, I could do that. So I think when we're talking about teacher pay, we want to keep that in mind. We need it to be higher because we are going to lose people. And in the last couple of years, to respond to the senator from Lynchburg, we have lost a ton of teachers because the job market's flush. There's jobs everywhere. And so teachers can go and double their pay elsewhere. So that's the first thing I think that's worth noting in this conversation when we're talking about the back and forth about dollar amounts. We should be aiming for that higher amount because other sectors are poaching teachers for that reason. The second thing I'd say, and this is maybe in direct response to the senator from Lynchburg, is he's right on one core thing. And that one core thing is that the reason we have a huge teacher issue is not just pay. It's a whole bunch of factors. Before I got here, y'all shredded retirement and made the retirement less friendly for teachers, right? We didn't have teacher pay raises for a long time. That's a problem. We haven't funded support staff and counselors for a long time, so teachers are more on an island than they've ever been when it comes to things like discipline problems, academic problems, and all these things. We do add on teacher training and all this other stuff that gets people to burn out. This is all true. And where I would tie it back in is, and that is why you should vote for the Senate Finance budget that we put out of this place a week ago, and why we should be focused on numbers like this. because by doing that, we are righting the wrong in many ways. We are bringing their pay up. We are getting them the support staff that help them with discipline, that help them with ELL students, that help them with mental health issues. We get the schools the resources they need. To take one example to close, when we talk about ELL students, we're shameful when it comes to funding for ELL. We're like the second or third worst state in the country. We have school systems with hundreds of foreign languages. And when the state doesn't pay, the locals do, because they have to educate the children in their schools. And when they use their money for that, they can't use it for other things that they desperately need. And so I would hope we would vote for the committee amendments. I would hope that we would demand the Senate Finance budget as the final budget when it goes through this process, because it is going to take all of those different programs in the budget. It is going to take teacher pay raises to right-size our teacher shortage. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor, with the recommendation that it be rejected. Those in favor will, I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry, had that backwards. Shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator Hashmi. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that HB 187 be agreed to.
Would the senator like to speak?
Speaking to that motion.
And before the senator continues, and the floor substitute now is therefore out of order. Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. HB 187 is bringing together into agreement our SB 104 that was passed by the Senate. We have reconciled the two bills through the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. SB 104 is carried by Madam Chair, the senator from Portsmouth. And again, this is such a critical and very, very necessary bill to ensure that we are paying and compensating our teachers appropriately, that we are meeting national averages, and further, that we are putting into place a clear method so that we continue to address teacher salary and compensation in an objective manner year by year, so that we are adjusting for inflation, that we are taking into consideration the necessary changes that come from time to time, and that the Commonwealth is doing everything possible to ensure that we have a strong public education system and that we are funding high-quality teachers at the levels that they deserve. And again, I renew my motion that we pass HB 187.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The bill passes.
House Bill 210, Electronic Execution of Estate Planning Documents, codifies Uniform Electronic Wills Act. Reported from the committee amendments have been adopted by the Senate.
Chair recognizes Senator Surreville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Not having been one of the committee members who supported this bill, I would yield to the senator from Northern Fairfax who will defend this bill on the floor.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we pass HB 210. And speaking briefly to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill tended to split between the attorneys and the non-attorneys in committee, and it permits trusts, advance medical directives, and refusals to make anatomical gifts to be signed and notarized as appropriate by electronic means. It also codifies the Uniform Electronic Wills Act, which permits a testator to execute a will by electronic means. The act requires that the will be signed by 2 witnesses who are in physical or electronic presence of the testator and acknowledged by the testator and the attesting witnesses in the physical or electronic presence of a notary public. Electronic presence means the testator, the witnesses, and the notary public have to be able to see each other and watch each other and communicate with each other in real time, just as if they were physically present with one another. Currently, there are 12 other states that allow for this and 13 other states that are considering it. This legislation was developed prior to the pandemic by the Uniform Law Commission, but the pandemic underscores the need for the legislation. The legislation does not mandate a person use an electronic will, but gives the option of signing a will by electronic means in the presence of witnesses who may be in different locations than the person signing the will, making it easier to complete the process of developing and signing a will by eliminating the need for an in-person physical meeting to sign documents will encourage its completion and allow qualified professionals to offer online estate planning services to persons who might not otherwise make a plan. The legislation requires all electronic wills be notarized and made self-proving by an electronic notary public. Importantly, the legislation is technology neutral and should not need amendments in the future to accommodate technological advances. And I move the bill pass.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Madam President, I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of the Senate, I'm not a country lawyer, I'm not a big city lawyer, but I do this work. I don't write wills. What I do is, in my practice, is I protect families, mostly families who've been taken advantage of by somebody unscrupulous. Most of them involve older family members who are vulnerable to financial exploitation and abuse. And there are 1,000 different varieties of this kind of exploitation and 1,000 different situations that arise in which people can take advantage of other people. And usually it involves somebody who's trusted, a misplaced trust. And that trust is abused in a manner that allows that person to essentially steal everything that belongs to that vulnerable elder or vulnerable adult. I can tell you that I had a case a couple of years ago up in Fairfax County in which it was believe it or not, it was a lawyer who was power of attorney for an elderly woman who had no children. She had nieces and nephews scattered around the country. She was a military widow. Nobody dreamed that she had any resources. She had an old Honda parked in her split-level parking garage at her house. Her neighbors didn't think that she had 2 plug nickels to rub together. They brought her food, took care of her. She suffered a stroke, was hospitalized. Her lawyer, power of attorney, occasionally brought the mail into the hospital, and one day brings in a brokerage statement and opens it and finds out she is sitting on multiple millions of dollars. And that lawyer proceeded to explain to her how badly she needed a will. He wrote the will in which he named himself as the primary beneficiary of her estate, and his son, who she had never even met, as the residuary beneficiary. And long story short, but for the vigilance of one nephew in Georgia, he would have gotten away with it and taken absolutely everything that this little old lady had. And the family would have been none the wiser. I tell you that story just because, you know, people are ruthless when it comes to money and estates and taking advantage of an opportunity. Now, this bill is, you know, it's not going to bring about great mischief in the vast majority of the cases in which it is used. You know, if I wanted to do a will through this electronic will act, it may be a little bit more convenient. And I'm not concerned about situations in which anybody in this room might utilize this. What I'm concerned about is the opportunity that it provides for the unscrupulous to take advantage of our most vulnerable citizens. What this would allow is for that testator, the maker of the will, to be in a room with a computer with the webcam focused on him or her, and somebody else to be on the other side of that webcam, and the lawyer's asking questions about, what do you want? Do you want, I've written this will in which I'm given, you know, all of your estate to one son and disinheriting all of the rest. Is that what you want? Son standing behind the computer going, doesn't have to say anything, but putting that kind of squeeze and pressure on that vulnerable adult to do this. There are just certain things that ought to be done in a lawyer's office. And this wasn't just a fight between lawyers and non-lawyers. This bill was, quite frankly, brought by lawyers. It was brought largely by the will writers. You know, I get to see the other side of that. I get to see it when somebody winds up realizing that somebody is taking advantage of mom or, you know, my grandmother or my aunt. It certainly may be more convenient for the will writers to be able to do this. But do we really want to open up additional avenues for people to take advantage of these vulnerable citizens? And I'd say no. What that lawyer really needs to do is sit down in the room with mother or grandmother and look across the table without anybody else in there, without somebody who might be trusted and inclined to put pressure on them, and say, tell me in your own words. Tell me in your own words what you want to do. Who do you want to receive your estate? For the lawyer to be able to make an assessment as to whether that is truly the intention and the desire of the person making that will, or whether it is the product of undue influence in whatever form that it takes. So, you know, in 99% of the cases, this is going to be a perfectly innocent, good, convenient idea. But I'm not concerned about those. I'm concerned about the small minority of cases in which we are allowing the unscrupulous to take advantage of our elders. This is wrong, and we shouldn't do it.
The question,
Madam President.
Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Speaking to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Yeah, well, unlike my friend from the big city of Harrisonburg, I have spent the bulk of my life as a country lawyer. And I can tell you that I agree with him 100%. I think you have to have the person in front of you to know what they intend, and you have to know that they're not under the undue influence of somebody else. I've had in my office, in my little country office, I've had people that wanted to do wills, and I've had family members that wanted to put pressure on them. And you need to see that. You need to know that what that person wants in the will is what they want. And this bill as my friend from Rockingham says, this bill will probably have innocent results most of the time, but sometimes it might not. And that's just too much of a chance, I think, for us to take. And so I hope you will reject this legislation.
Senator Sorovell, senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I know how to do wills, but I don't do wills. I tear things apart. I don't put things together. I go to court. That's what I do. But this, this situation first arose, I think, the movement to make wills electronic arose during the pandemic. If you all remember, if you can take yourself back to that time, a lot of people got terrified about dying, especially the elderly. And there was a big rush of people to get their wills done. But nobody wanted to actually get in each other's proximity because they were so freaked out that somebody might catch something, right? And a lot of the lawyers were sort of trying to figure out how to do wills remotely, and it wasn't allowed. So people had to mask up and go to the office and get it done that way. And that sort of, I think, highlighted what some people thought was a need to do this electronically. Since then, we first saw this bill in 2021 in the Senate Courts of Justice Committee, and we killed it. We had a long debate about it, and we killed it. By a pretty heavy margin, I think. And back at the time, only 6 states had adopted this act. Now I think about 11 or 12 have adopted it, I'm told. But from my perspective, it has all the problems that you've heard, and the senator from Rockingham described, and the senator from Charlottesville. Just to give you all another example, I during the pandemic, I had to litigate a 4-day divorce trial by Zoom. It was miserable. But I'll tell you, during the trial, at one point, I was taking the live testimony of somebody on screen, and I could just see, looking at the screen, something wasn't right. I would ask a question, there'd be a pause, the eyes would divert, and after about, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of this, I said, "Sir, is there somebody in the room with you?" He said, "Oh, yeah, my son's here," sitting right on the other side of the screen, telling him how to answer my questions, right? That doesn't happen in court. In court, that's not allowed. In court, you don't get to go in with your coach to tell you how to answer the questions, right? And if you have a situation here where you're trying to ask somebody, is this your intent? And there can be who knows how many people in the room creating pressure, telling them, nodding their head, saying yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down. It's going to happen. And I think that this bill is motivated by pure intentions, in part. In one sense, I think it's an attempt to try to make wills more broadly available to people, lower the cost. I don't think it's a mistake that AARP was in there asking us to do this. There was a big financial company, because you know what? Guess who's going to have the biggest will mill in Virginia if we pass this bill? Right? You're going to get your AARP statement. They haven't. I don't think they've mailed me yet. But yeah, they're coming. But you're going to start getting these AARP things saying, "Hey, for $250, you can get a will from AARP on your Zoom thing or whatever, or you're going to get it from your financial company wherever you do your investments. They're going to do it. They're going to offer it as a service, and mistakes are going to be made through these will mills. We saw this in divorces. There's this one guy in Northern Virginia who will do like 30 no-fault divorces in one court hearing. It's crazy. He lines people up and he just jams them out. And I remember back 20 years ago, some of the clerks were complaining to me that like 3 or 4 of this guy's divorces would come back every single year because he was going so fast and blowing through so many red lights, people weren't finding out they were getting divorced, and the cases are coming back and getting reopened because his mill was just blowing through things. That's what's going to happen with this. When you have a high-volume practice where you lower the standards, a lot more mistakes get made, which is great for me for business because, like I said, that's more things for me to sue about. But I don't like this bill. I don't think it's the right way to go. I've thought about it hard. And the last thing I'll just say is that if you're worried about more access to wills, if any of you all right now want to write a will, take a piece of paper, get out a pen, write down on the piece of paper, here's where I want all my stuff to go, and sign it. Under Virginia law, that's called a holographic will, and it is completely enforceable. Any other prior will you've done, out the window. Somebody just has to come in and say, prove it, and say that was your handwriting. So if you're worried about access, you're worried about having a cheap will, just you know, you can do it that way. They've probated wills that people have scribbled on the sides of walls or in the backs of pizza boxes, all kinds of stuff. It doesn't even have to be on paper. It just has to be in your handwriting and signed. So access isn't really an issue. And I just think this is a solution that's not ready for prime time yet. I don't think the trade-off of making these things more available at a cheaper cost is worth the risk of all the disadvantage that people are going to get taken advantage of because people realize they can get something done electronically. So I would hope we don't pass this.
Senator Subramaniam, the senior senator from Loudoun.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking very briefly to the bill.
The senator may continue.
And thank you, Madam President. I'll just say that the legal work that I do, almost all of it's online now. I work with companies now where they're completely remote at this point, and we sign all of our contracts on DocuSign, on Notarize.com, on other types of services that are completely online. And I think with 12 other states already doing this, it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure you can do a holographic will, but it's better if a senior who maybe isn't as mobile, can't get out to a professional, could access a professional online and be able to go through that process. I think the guardrails that are needed are in place in this bill, and so I'd move passage of the bill.
Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, this bill regarding electronic will, it is essentially providing another avenue, just not the only avenue. Originally, I did not make up my mind on how I wanted to vote on this, and I remember during the pandemic, I had to refinance my mortgage. Majority of that, except for the signature, was done electronically through email, hundreds of pages that were sent to me, and that essentially provided me with the ability to not only refinance during the pandemic, but also access to something that other people did not have. That is what this bill is doing, is providing the additional access, whether you're in a brown or black community where wills are not a thing that they create. They wait till they're on their deathbed to create one. And perhaps the reason they don't create one is that they have to take time off during 9 to 5 to go see a lawyer and to put this together, to have it notarized and signed, where this process will allow more people access the ability that they don't have to take time off of their work to go ahead and create a will. And when we talk about the idea that there may be unintended consequences, we do everything from banking to everything online, and there's always fraud that happens, and there's always safeguards. And again, there's 12 states that still do this and 13 that are considering this, and this is before the pandemic. So I hope this body passes this bill.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam President. If nobody else wishes to speak.
The senator has the floor.
I would like to just speak to the bill before renewing my motion. The senator from Rockingham just mentioned in his comments that he expected that 99% of the uses of this will would be legitimate and would be honest. If you would tell me that 99% of anything is going to work, I'm going to say that's probably a really good idea. We don't have any assurance that 100% of the things that we do in this General Assembly are going to be used appropriately. And we have heard from a number of our colleagues who are in this field where they were in person with people who were trying to commit fraud and take advantage of their loved ones. The holographic will that we talked about, who's to say that your father who might have dementia, you couldn't encourage him to say, okay, Daddy, let's write Mama out of the will and you give me everything. Just write it here on this piece of paper right as I'm at your bedside before you die. There is no guarantee, folks, that doing this in person with a lawyer in their face is going to be legitimately more risky than the process of doing this online. We meet our financial advisors online and give them access to all of our financial information. There are people, and I know that one of the reasons that the patron of this bill wanted to do it, he is in Leesburg. His son is in Atlanta. Another son is in Tennessee. And the father-in-law, who is in assisted living, is in San Diego to deal with his health care provider. They needed to get the will done then, not wait until everybody was back in the same room together. My family is all over the country as well. It would be very difficult for me and my two brothers and one of my parents to all get together at a moment's notice, especially if we happen to be in the General Assembly right now. It is important that we give people options. And I think what this bill will do will give people who do not have a regular attorney, who want to make certain that they are working with somebody, the opportunity to get this done. Another thing that nobody has really talked about is that this has another set of safeguards. The Uniform Electronic Wills Act requires electronic notarization, and that requires that there is a recording that can go back later to if there are any issues. It will be of record. If you're sitting in your office, you don't necessarily ever have another witness of exactly what was said at that moment. And so I will just repeat, 13 jurisdictions have accepted some form of the Uniform Act. 7 are Uniform Act, 4 were before the Uniform Act. Puerto Rico and Virginia also have this. Is there potential for fraud in the system that we have now? Everybody has to agree, yes, there is. Will there be potential for fraud if we add this? Yes, but as the senator from Rockingham said, he believes that at least 90% will be honest people just trying to get done the business of their families. And I hope that we will vote for this bill. Thank you.
Senator Obenshain, the senator from Rockingham.
Speaking to the bill, and I apologize to the
senator has the floor.
Fairfax, but several brief points. One, attorney-drafted wills, as opposed to the holographic handwritten will, they are afforded much more weight when challenged. If some issue arises with respect to the validity of a handwritten will versus an attorney-drafted will, that attorney-drafted will is going to be treated with great deference by the court, and as a matter of fact, it's going to be virtually impossible under current law to challenge that. Number two, yeah, there are other opportunities for abuse, but we are opening one more. We should not do that. And third, 99% of the time, this will cause no harm. Well, let me tell you who the 1% are. They are our vulnerable seniors, the people who are counting on us here to protect them. We passed legislation this year, last year, the year before, and the year before that, dealing with the protection of vulnerable elders who are being victimized by abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. This bill opens another window for financial exploitation of vulnerable adults, and we should not do that.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? All the senators voted. Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20. I'm sorry. Ayes 19, noes 20.
Ayes 19, noes 20. The bill fails.
House Bill 1178, Commonwealth of Virginia Innovation Partnership Authority, amends membership of Board of Directors. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology, and there is a floor substitute.
Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I first move that we waive the reading of the floor substitute.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor substitute is waived. Senator Eben.
Move the floor substitute pass or be adopted, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
I think that I may have misspoke a little bit when I described the bill yesterday, describing the legislative appointees. I should have been clear that they weren't legislators themselves, and what I've done in this substitute is equalize out the appointees from the Senate Joint Rules Committee to the Speaker of the House. So each would have 4 appointees. And the substitute still contains the other provisions of the bill, including a prohibition on members of the Virginia Innovation Partnership Authority Board from investing personal funds in any venture capital activities supported by the authority. So I move we adopt the substitute.
Senator McDougal. The question is, shall the floor substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is accepted. Senator Eben.
I move the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
So as explained, the Senate and the House have the same number of citizen appointees to the Partnership Authority, and with that, I move the bill pass.
Question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 15.
Ayes 24, noes 15. The bill passes.
House Bill 149, Employee Protections, Medicinal Use of Cannabis Product, reported from the Committee on Rehab and Social Services with a substitute.
Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye. Madam President, I now move that the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. What this bill does is it removes a prohibition against employees who need to use cannabis for medical reasons during their work hours. The bill also exempts law enforcement. It's a very straightforward bill, and it is identical to Senate Bill 391, which passed out of this body with a vote of 30-10. Having explained the bill, again, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 13.
Ayes 26, noes 13. The bill passes.
House Bill 327, Affordable and Inclusive Housing, DBHDS, to develop plan to ensure people with disabilities have access. Reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendments.
Again, Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator may say on.
Okay. What this bill does is it directs the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services to develop a plan for individuals with disabilities to access affordable and inclusive housing. The purpose of this bill is to really ensure that individuals with disabilities can enjoy the freedom, equity, and opportunity to participate fully in public life. DBHDS is required to report back to the respective committees in the General Assembly by November 2025. This is a bill that's much needed. The literature tells us how important housing is to the ability of individuals to integrate into their communities and to enjoy a full life, which again is the intent of this bill. Having explained this, I hope it is the pleasure of the body to pass the measure.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The bill passes.
House Bill 453, Kinship Foster Care Barrier Crimes, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendments.
Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. What this bill does is it removes certain barrier crimes in cases where family members want to step forward and serve as foster parents for their kin. So the bill allows for certain crimes, felony crimes related to drug possession, that an individual have a clean record for 5 years. The current law requires 10. And we also exempt certain misdemeanor offenses related to assault and battery, as long as those offenses do not include abuse against a child or the moral turpitude of a child. The State Board of Social Services would develop regulations to implement this bill. Madam President, members of the Senate, Virginia is one of the states that does not have a very high rate of placing children with their kin. And we need to improve our standing in that area, because children have much better outcomes when they're cared for by their relatives or victim kin. They can establish long-term ties, and they have the emotional support they need to thrive. So for those reasons, I ask that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? All the senators voted. Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. The bill passes.
House Bill 645, Electric Vehicle Signs for Parking Spaces Reserved for Charging Vehicles, reported from the Committee on Transportation.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the bill.
Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a pretty easy bill. It removes the requirement that the signs noted that a parking space is reserved for charging plug-in electric motor vehicles includes the civil penalty for the parking in violation of such a sign. So it basically takes out the number of the fee that would be charged. For our edification, that number is $25. And we have found that businesses that have these electric vehicle reserved parking places are finding that people who do not have electric vehicles are just parking in them because they don't think that the fee is as high as what it would cost for them to go to a parking garage at some points. So I move that the bill pass.
The question is, Senator Peake, the senator from Lynchburg.
Just speak briefly. One other way to
The
solve
senator
this,
has the floor.
Thank you, to speak to the bill, Madam President, would be to move the electric spots a lot further away so people wouldn't want to park in them. They're always the closest ones.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The bill passes.
House Bill 801, Electronic Communication Systems Within State Correctional Facilities Telephone Calls, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with an amendment.
Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to. Senator Favola?
Okay, thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Okay, what this bill does is it requires the Department of Corrections to provide telephone systems and web-based electronic communication systems to be offered at the lowest rate possible. And it also allows inmates to have 20 call numbers on their sheet, a maximum of 20 call numbers. This is a very common sense bill. Again, this is part of an effort to help with our rehabilitation programs in our jails, in our state correctional facilities. Having explained the bill, again, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 9.
Ayes 30, noes 9. The bill passes.
House Bill 812, license plate special, repeals references to Sons of Confederate Veterans and Robert E. Lee. Reported from the Committee on Transportation.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass and speak into the bill.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a bill that authorizes an end to renewing license plates for the Sons of Confederate Veterans and Robert E. Lee special license plates. Those that are already in circulation will remain valid until their expiration date, but they will not be removed. And I move the bill pass.
The question, for what purpose does the senator from Goochland rise?
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The courthouse square is the bedrock of the First Amendment. You can't eliminate speech just because you don't like the message. The DMV license plate program is a modern-day courthouse square. It allows people to showcase different points of view, such as their university, military service, and much more. In fact, there are over 300 different license plate messages available in the Commonwealth. You can't discriminate because you don't like a message. Supreme Court case law says it's unconstitutional for the government to regulate speech because it does not like the message. For example, Planned Parenthood performed over 374,000 abortions in 2021. Imagine how many kindergarten classes could be filled right now if those children were alive. So when I see a Planned Parenthood license plate on government plates, I'm offended. I understand that might not offend some others. I understand others say that they are offended when they see General Robert E. Lee. Personally, I think that our history should be taught. We need to remember where we came from, and there are good points and bad points about our history, just like each individual as we grow up. And so we must remember our history and our heritage. However, we can't constitutionally strike either, as we would be regulating speech because we don't like the message. More importantly, if we pass this bill, a citizen will sue Virginia, and they will use this debate to show the intent of this bill is to kill speech because some in this body did not like the message. It is free speech, and you cannot discriminate. And I ask the body for that reason and more to vote no. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Just speaking to the bill and responding to the senator from Goochland.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. I absolutely agree that we must remember our history. In fact, I carried legislation in 2021 that told the whole history of our coming to America and of all of the different stories in the United States, from our immigrants to our African Americans. And we spent an entire year with a broad group of stakeholders putting together a report for the Department of Education. Unfortunately, that report was thrown in the trash, and we got a whitewashed version of history for our social studies and civics and history classes. So when we talk about that we want to preserve history, I want to just point out that even in Montgomery, Alabama, where I'm from, down in the South, I went to Jeff Davis High School, and even in Montgomery, Alabama, the Montgomery Board of Education decided to change the name of my school because they felt that it was inappropriate, because it is a symbol of repression and division. And they also changed the name of Robert E. Lee High School, again, because it was a symbol of oppression to the black and brown people who live in the community. This is exactly the same reason the patron brought this bill forward, and I urge the body to vote yes to pass this bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 17.
Ayes 21, noes 17. The bill passes.
House Bill 924, Transportation Network Companies, Publishing and Disclosure Requirements. Reporting from the Committee on Transportation.
Again, Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass and speak into the bill.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill requires a transportation company to issue an annual report to the Commissioner of the Department of Motor Vehicles that contains aggregate data regarding the average fare collected from the passengers, the total time driven by the TNC partners while transporting passengers, and the total amount earned by the TNC partners in connection with the prearranged rides, and to disclose to the TNC partners details about the deactivation process, and provides a weekly summary that includes a total fare collected from passengers, the total amount earned, and the percentage earned by such a TNC partner that week. This is a bill that the drivers of the companies that we are most familiar with, Uber and Lyft, have really asked us to pass. There were years when Uber and Lyft started in Virginia, they did used to provide this data to the drivers, and we are just trying to get it back in the requirements that they do so. And I move the bill pass. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 12.
Ayes 26, noes 12. The bill passes.
House Bill 925, Towing Vehicles with Expired Registration, Civil Penalty. Reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendments.
Senator Boysko.
Madam President, I move the bill pass and speak into the bill.
Would you like to move the committee amendments?
I would like to move the committee amendments. Yes, I move the committee amendments.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator Boysko.
Thank you. The committee amendments further clarify what is and what is not included under the definition of multifamily dwelling units.
Your motion, Senator?
Oh, I move that the bill pass. Excuse me.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. So just to clarify what those amendments were, clarifying what is not included under definition of multifamily dwelling units. Additionally, the amendments remove the requirement that a landlord transmit a copy of written notice to the tenant, and the accompanying penalty on the landlord has been removed as well. This bill, ladies and gentlemen, requires a towing operator for a parking facility of a multifamily dwelling unit as defined to post written notice on a vehicle providing at least 48 hours notice to a resident prior to removing a resident's vehicle when there is an expired registration or an expired vehicle inspection sticker, and to provide a copy of the notice to the landlord in that unit. The bill provides that a towing and recovery operator who fails to comply with these requirements should be required to reimburse the resident for the cost of the tow, and provides that the towing operator shall be subject to a fine, a civil penalty not to exceed $100. The legislature has made changes in the policy around expired registration that gives more time for residents. We have found that in some localities, as soon as a registration expires, that there are tow trucks drivers who are coming in and finding those cars and then towing them immediately without any notice to the individuals. And I move the bill pass. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The bill passes.
House Bill 1110, toll facilities requirements related to handling toll invoices on rented or leased vehicles. Reported from the Committee on Transportation.
Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. And speaking to the bill, this bill simply provides that in the context of an automated toll enforcement, there's an exemption from the definition of owner for vehicle rentals or vehicle leasing companies that apply if such companies meet existing requirements related to handling tolls invoices on rented or leased vehicles. And I renew my motion to pass the bill.
For what purpose does Senator Sorrow? The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar. House bills on second reading.
Senator Saraville, senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that all the House bills on second reading on the uncontested regular calendars, pages 27 through 38, House Bill 35 through 1511, that the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 27 through 38, House Bills 35 through House Bills 1511, be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator Saraville.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd move that all the House bills now on third reading go by for the day.
The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar. House joint resolutions on third reading.
Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all the House joint resolutions on third reading on the uncontested calendar designating every day, month, and week of the year as some special day on pages 38 through 42, House Joint Resolution 6 through 87 be advanced to their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, God forbid, and that any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
The question is, shall House joint resolutions on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 38 through 42, House Joint Resolution 6 through House Joint Resolution 87, be placed upon their final passage in the block with any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolutions. All those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolutions 6, 7, 8, 13, 17, 26, 27, 28, 42, 44, 52, 57, 74, 77, 78, 81, 83, 84, 87,
'The question is, shall the House joint resolutions in the block be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions in the block are agreed to.
Supplemental Calendar Number 1. Only 10 to go. Uncontested Calendar, House Bills on second reading.
Senator Sass, Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Man, I'm getting older every day. Madam President, I move that all the House bills on second reading on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 1 through 26, House bills 14 through 1264, that the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 1 through 26, House Bill 14 through House Bill 1264, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that all of the House bills now on third reading go by for the day.
The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on their third reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested Calendar, House Joint Resolution on second reading. House Joint Resolution 45, proposing an amendment to Section 6A of Article 10 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to real property tax exemptions surviving spouses of soldiers who died in the line of duty.
Chair recognizes Senator Surville.
Okay. Inquiry of the clerk. Does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Hearing none. Chair recognizes Senator McDougal.
Madam President, an announcement for Senate Republicans to meet immediately downstairs for 10 minutes.
Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to announce that we have met our goals for the Massey Cancer Center, $10,500. Congratulations to everyone. We are there. Thank you. And I pass the baton on to Coach. It's now your turn.
Madam President, I rise for announcement.
Senator Rouse, the junior senator from Virginia Beach.
Well, while I didn't plan to give my pregame speech today, I'll just give a brief heads up. So this week is game week, and as I look around the assembly today, I've noticed members eating cookies and eating ice cream sandwiches. I've also noticed a lot of soft drinks on the floor this week where we need to be drinking water and hydrating, and sparkling water does not count. So, with that being said, tomorrow is our last shoot-around practice. It will essentially be a walkthrough practice because Thursday is game day. I expect everyone to be in attendance on Thursday, especially since I did not receive any opt-out forms this year. So if you did not send in your opt-out form, you are required to play on Thursday. And you may ask, well, where was the opt-out forms? Well, if you came to practice, you would have received an opt-out form. So with that being said, we have one shot at winning this game on Thursday. One shot. One shot. And hopefully that would be the tempo of the game. One shot. One shot. But I hope to see you all tomorrow. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Peake, the senator from Lynchburg.
President, I rise for an announcement.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This is not as exciting as the basketball game or basketball practice, but it is pretty exciting. If you've been to a national park in the past year, if you've used one of our recreational trails, if you've gone kayaking or canoeing, then tonight is your night. It is the Outdoor Caucus event at 6 o'clock at Commonwealth Strategy Group. There'll be free Virginia beer and free Virginia barbecue. If you like the outdoors, if you enjoy the outdoors, please come tonight, 6 o'clock, Outdoor Caucus, Commonwealth Strategy Group. Thank you, Madam President.
The clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Tuesday, February 27th, the Committee on Privileges and Elections will meet 15 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room B. The Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources will meet 30 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room A. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health will not meet. Tomorrow, Wednesday, February 28th, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Public Safety and Claims will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the Senate Finance and Appropriations Room, 13th floor. Senators Abbott, Lucas, Marsden, McDougal, Pillion, and Hashmi. The Women's Legislative Roundtable will meet at 8:30 a.m. in the House North Meeting Room on the 7th floor. The Committees on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 8 a.m. in Senate Room A. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:15 a.m. Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. Senate Room 1. And tomorrow is Revenue Bill. So don't make any plans for the night.
Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This morning in the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee, we put the budget amendments that were adopted by the Senate onto the House budget bills, House Bill 29 and House Bill 30. And for that reason, I would like to go ahead now and announce the Senate budget conferees. In addition to myself, I appoint Senator Deeds, Senator Locke, Senator Boysko, Senator McDougal, and Senator Pillion.
Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn in memory of Adam Oaks until 12 noon tomorrow.
The question is, shall the Senate now stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow in memory of Adam Oaks? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon in the memory of Adam Oaks.